Guys, listen up. As you get older, the best way to continue to look young, exuberant, and vibrant is to continue to take care of your skin. That's why I'm excited to have Teej Hanley as a sponsor of today's video. You heard me talk about them before, and you're going to continue to hear me talk about them because I believe in their products and the positive impact that they have on every man's life. Teej Hanley makes taking care of your skin so easy. They provide you with all the products you need and nothing that you don't. Every box comes with an instruction card that tells you when to use each product, how much to use, and in what order. Lapeef family, I must admit, skincare wasn't always something I always focused on, but since I started using this system, I've seen improvements in the way my skin looks and feels. And you don't have to take my word for it. They have over 5,000 five-star reviews on their website from satisfied customers from around the world. I recommend you start with the level 1 system, which comes with all the basics: a daily face wash, an exfoliating scrub, an AM moisturizer, and a PM moisturizer. In addition to amazing skin, members of Teej Hanley get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off retail price, the ability to customize your box, pause or cancel at any time, and free US shipping. And because Teej Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers a great deal. Just click that first link in the description, and you'll get 30% off first box plus the free gift. Seriously, that's an amazing deal. Even though it's too early, as I often say, it's never too late. Click that link and get started today.
That's right, family. Feel it, Teej. It's go time. What's going on, family? Welcome to the solution. Let me introduce the crew. We got Enas, Trigger Mike, Shan Monet, Let's Take It, Bruiser, Eric, Lady T, and myself from Lapeef JI. Welcome to the solution on the Lapeef experience. What's going on, family? What's going on? How y'all doing?
Hey y'all, happy 2023. If I haven't already told y'all, hello.
Happy New Year's, everybody. Hey.
Who says Happy New Year's by MLK Day? Come on.
I said Happy MLK Day.
I'm like, Happy MLK.
Shit. Oh yeah, that too.
Oh,
you mean rest in peace?
Trigger, you in H-Town, man?
Oh yeah. For some reason, it shouldn't surprise anybody. Half the people on YouTube live here. I don't get it, but
like me.
Yeah.
I'm here too, bro.
I thought everybody was in Atlanta. Everybody in Houston?
Oh yeah. That's what I've noticed. I mean, both, but people, I'll just watch what they got on, or they referenced in some streets, and they always in Houston.
Okay. Shout out to the people that's in Houston, as well as ATL. If you guys are just tuning in, welcome to the solution. I know you missed us last week, but hey, it is what it is. Our apologies. But we're here now. That's all that matters. Let me see who we got in the chat. Not too many people, but Tap, the accountability partner. Shout out to you. Green Gang is in the chat. I see we have I always get pronounce her name wrong. Saira?
Yeah.
Saida.
I still think it's wrong. I think we all still say it wrong.
Saida.
Okay. We'll leave it at that. What's that? Little Ba? AL.B. Well, you guys got some strange YouTube names there. Marriage, politics, and sports. I always email you marriage, politics, and sports, but I'm gonna need you to check your email, sir, on a daily basis, because you never know when I hit you up. If there's a better way to contact you, then please reach out to me and let me know, because all I got is the email, and I know sometimes you respond like 2 or 3 days later. So hey, we missed each other. I do want to try to get you on. You have a great perspective, so make sure you reach out to me ASAP and let me know how I can do that. With that being said, let's go ahead and get the show started. You guys are good. You said right.
Mhm.
Yep.
Man, y'all sound too dry, man. I thought I was the one that was sounding a little funny, but y'all.
What? Dry? Never.
Supposed to be a new year, new you, and y'all sit over here, still bring that old stuff in there.
Sir, I ain't need the new year to renew me. Okay.
We got a couple of topics for you guys. We got the meat on the second topic, so we're gonna leave it there because we know the ladies they still like the meat, right?
Always.
Definitely. For life.
For some reason I thought y'all went vegan in 2023, but I guess not.
I mean,
They could never.
I've been plant based for a while now, but
Well,
that's
you can't
not what we be talking
you
about.
feel like the meat, lady. So, oh, that's a whole nother story. Let's go ahead and move on from that because that's just totally
No comment.
Hit the like button if you haven't already. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Shout out to the sponsor, Teej Hanley, as usual. Make sure you guys feel the Teej, uncomplicated skincare for men. I think what was it? Lapeef and Sundays. I even showed that they even have the balls powder. So that's something new. You know, ladies like the meat. You might like the meat with the powdery balls. So, let me move on, man.
So you were talking about what I was talking about. I mean, as long as
it's getting
edible, they may like it.
I'm gonna have to edit this out because this is I might have to change the rating. This is definitely over 18. With that being said, let's go ahead and move on because we don't like to talk about that here. Our first topic of the night is I think it's gonna be a good one. It's never hit a man where he's weak. Never hit a man where he's weak. I know you guys may be thinking all over the place with this one, but I do have a video as usual because when I give a context, it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this for you. I seen Sham Monet, you squint. I'm coming to you first. For some reason, you have this thing to dodge and you just give these face expressions throughout the broadcast and you look it down and then you squint. Miss Taken, can you read that for me, please? And all that. So we're gonna go ahead and go to you first. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'll let you warm up a little bit. I'm gonna go to Trigger. Trigger always ready.
Damn.
Yeah, my mother told me, she said, you never hit a man where he's weak. Never. It could be true, it could be real, but you don't hit him where he's weak because it'll turn around on you. You can get him to do what you need him to do, but you never hit a man where he's weak because they never forget it. It lives with them. And so I know what his weaknesses are. He don't know I know they're there. Because I don't mention them, don't talk about them, and I don't.
All right, there we go. Never hit a man where he's weak. I don't think even a strong man won't even say it, but women have a way with their words sometimes.
Yeah.
You just kind of get up under your skin. It takes a lot of restraint sometimes for you not to say something back. Because even though you're not supposed to hit a man where he's weak, according to that video, I think a man has to exercise that restraint because if you say the wrong thing and you get up under that woman's skin, it can go left and it can go left for a while. I'm sure my men can understand. Women may not really know, but you may have experienced one of those things where a man would say something and he know he shouldn't have said it. But because you got up under his skin the wrong way and you hit him where he was weak, he just lashed out. So typically a man that responds in emotion. So hopefully we don't have no men doing that. But let's go ahead and talk about this. Never hit a man where he's weak. I'm gonna go ahead and start with Trigger Mike first, and then we'll go to Sham Monet.
All right, bet. So, thinking about that, I mean, I think this is one of the hot button issues of today's time, right? Unfortunately, in relationships, a lot of men report like, look, this woman just don't know how to talk to me, or she was never, it really boils down to her never being taught how to keep a man in mind, how to care for a man in that way. And I think it's something that has been lost, but one of the reasons I think a man chooses a woman is because of the care she can take in on this particular subject, right? You marry a woman that's graceful, that's elegant, and usually has the characteristics of your mother if you believe your mother was a good woman. The way your mother took care of you is a way as a woman is supposed to protect your image, She's actually supposed to protect your ego. That is a wife's job. Putting that battery in your back, she's supposed to protect your ego and prop you up so you can be the face of the family. She's supposed to do that. That's actually, I wrote a book somewhere around here. It's number like 5. All right. So she's supposed to protect your ego, and hitting you where you're weak. It's one of the factors that contribute to men slowly checking out of the relationship. And I've heard almost every woman on this panel say something about that at one time or another. That's one of the reasons men will silently check out and mythically divorce your ass without actually leaving the home. All right. If he can't trust you to take care of him in that type of psychological way where you're using all of his weaknesses against him and he has an enemy in his own home, that's a man that will just function day to day in a household and do what is expected of him, but he's going to check out on the relationship. And I would say it has a lot to do with a woman's maturity. I noticed the more mature a woman is, like we get in these social groups as married people, and I usually can take a really good inventory after meeting someone's wife on the type of wife she is. Like some wives don't know not to talk about certain things in front of other people, but some wives can't help themselves, right? So it's really a testament to how mature a woman is when she knows she's not supposed to make her man look bad, hit him where he's weak, and she's supposed to prop him up and protect his ego at all times.
I got a question for you, Trigger Mike. You said that some women don't realize certain things that they shouldn't talk about. Can you give me some examples, a couple of them, of what a woman shouldn't talk about?
Oh yeah. Let's say a man got laid off, right? Let's say it's actually very funny because right now in present time we got, and I really love Michelle Obama, let's say, right? Or these women are writing these tell-all books and it's really supposed to be their biography, but they write so much stuff about their marriage where it's like, did you ask your man about this? Because I know you want to say it and you want it to be a part of your story of triumph, but let's be real. Some men don't want parts of their story told. It is hurtful. We do get hurt by it. So talking about a man and his job struggles and, you know, when we had money troubles, usually you'll see these things when a woman wants to prop herself up, she has to downplay something, or, you know, she has to kind of take stabs at her man in that way to prop herself up. So I think that's an example of how women will accidentally or purposely do that.
All right, Shan Monet, what are your thoughts about it? Never hit a man where he's weak.
I do agree with that. I think that if you chose a guy to be the man, you chose the man of your household, that you shouldn't try to make a person feel bad for any reason. I do think you should have honest conversation, but there is a way that conversation should probably come out, not to belittle anybody or to, if there's something going on that's wrong. But other than that, I do think that you should definitely protect your man's ego. I think that you should give praise when praise is due, and emphasize that positive reinforcement. I think that I think that you should definitely not try to, come down on him. I think he knows what's going on. You don't have to put it up in their face. If you're mad, throw things in people's face. Just walk away with grace. But I think that just with anybody, you should do that. So, of course, not with your man.
I do have a follow-up question, and either one of you guys can ask it, but what if the woman, it's what's the question I'm trying to ask? If it's a problem that the woman has and it's bothering her, should she refrain from saying it to the man?
No, you don't want that.
Even though it may hit him in the wrong place. So let's just say that it's not getting hard enough.
Oh, well, I think that there's ways to say things. I think if you're just nasty with it, there's ways to just rub them like, hey, honey, and just, pump them up just to throw that little piece in there. Think about all the things he does do well. And then just like, but there is one little, and, just throw it in.
Because that could be one of the things right there where you hit the man where he's weak. you know, and then, but you don't, it's an uncomfortable conversation. So on one end, you saying you want him to want to have an honest conversation, but.
Well, you can have an honest conversation, but it's about presentation. You know, what works for your man. If it's not getting up, I think he knows that because he can see that for himself. Maybe you should just, you know, have a conversation like, what can we do? You know, is that what that was your example, right?
Yeah, that was my example, but some women face.
But there are other issues, like there are issues that are maybe not so obvious. I think that there are ways to talk to people. I think if you talk to your man, you know, in a way that's respectful, I think that it can go over well. But the conversation needs to be had. Please do not just bottle you. What you don't want is a woman sitting there keeping it to herself. And then it just builds and builds and builds. And then that's how it comes out at the wrong time. I think that you should definitely communicate. It's just how you communicate that. Be effective with your communication. That's all I got.
So, can I jump in there?
Sure.
So for the follow-up or for the question? So I have a little bit.
Yeah, well, you can address the question first, answer the question, and then if you want to respond to the follow-up, then you can as well.
Okay, so yeah, I fully. What'd you say?
It's popcorn style, as you guys say on Clubhouse.
Oh yeah, right. But yeah, so I agree wholeheartedly. Never hit a man where he's weak. I feel like, I mean, we're told that women were the rib cage, right? We're supposed to protect their heart. So like a lot of times people speak to the safety of women. And I feel like we don't often speak to the safety of men. And I feel like one of the main things that women do for their men is keep them safe emotionally. I mean, in those really intimate relationships anyway, when the man allows himself to get that vulnerable with her anyway. So yeah, it's since seeing as how like it's typically pretty difficult for a man to go there, you hitting him when he's weak is probably the ultimate betrayal. And so with that being said, yeah, I completely agree. I feel like there's a level of grace and patience that comes with refraining from doing those things too, because just like you said, with women having sharp words, men tend to do some pretty irritating things too. They can be really childish when they want to be. So it could be very easy to, in an argument, I mean, for some people anyway, be like, you know, frustrated and saying things in a way that might come across as harsh and may bruise a man's ego. So that's my take on that. Now, as it relates to speaking to something difficult, like and not getting hard enough or something else, any other difficult thing, I don't think that not hitting a man where he's weak means that you're supposed to bite your tongue or walk around on eggshells and act like you can't speak your mind. But I think it's not what you say, it's how you say it and when you say it. Like, you speaking to your issues on a man only because he's speaking to his issues on you is never okay, because it just seems like you're being defensive and as though you're not necessarily processing what he has to say to you. And that you just have had this on your mind for so long and now you're choosing to say it. And like Shan said, it's not the most effective way to communicate. So I don't, you know, I think it's legitimate. It's just really how you go about it. Like, you could be mad at him, you could have whatever you want to say, but you know, love is patient, love is kind, love is understanding, you know, it's forgiving. You're not about to sit here and being vengeful and vindictive and all of that. So yeah, I agree. And I don't feel like men can compete with us when it comes to cutting deep with the words. So I feel like as a woman, you should know that we yield that power and manage it responsibly.
So I'll jump in. I agree with the majority of what the people who've spoken have said already. that last part I do disagree with, Lady T. I think men are equally sharp with their words. I think they are significantly more disciplined in not doing it and exercising that restraint. Um, and if you've ever heard men speak candidly, there's still a level of filter, right? When they do it amongst themselves, there's still a level of filter that's still applied. So I think men have learned to master it. But to what Trigger Mike was saying earlier, I don't, at least I've never met a woman that didn't know to not hit a man where he's weak. I think there's the point you said about level of maturity. I think there's also a power dynamic that happens between people where women will do it intentionally to exert power over their partner. I think that the third reason is also some people or some women, let me be clear, I think some women do it very intentionally to get any sort of reaction out of her partner, especially when it comes to men who can present as nonchalant or have already shut down, that she'll continue to poke and poke and poke just to elicit any sort of reaction. I think all of them are wrong, because at the end of the day, if you choose that person, you should choose them with care. But I think there's more than just a lack of maturity as to why it happens.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Taken.
I definitely I love Judge Toller. She just be giving so much wisdom and advice. So I do totally agree with that. I agree with Trigger Mike in terms of level of maturity. I think having, as you grow as a couple, part of it is learning to communicate better. And a lot of times we are immature in our communication, especially when we're angry. And I definitely think that the difference is women will cut with their words, and men are very harsh with their words. So when you put both of those things together, and especially in an emotion of anger, there's no telling what may come out. And so I do think I agree with Inaz in the fact that I think men are better with making sure that they are covering their words, like they're, not just necessarily acting off of emotion and saying something. Whereas I think women, when we are emotional, there are times that we may not necessarily be more mindful of what we're saying. And to answer the second part of that, I do think that that even though the weaknesses of your mate, I do think it is open for discussion on both ends. I think that is the only way that you can strengthen those areas. If you never have constructive conversations and have, what they say, constructive criticism or critique, it just has to be done in love and consideration. And not just, sometimes men can be very blunt, like we hear it on in these spaces, especially like when they're talking about weight. And like, no, don't sugarcoat it. She knows she fat. You just tell her like it is, So just like in those instances where you want to be blunt and just say it like it is, I think you have to have some covering in your words when you're speaking to each other about areas that are very sensitive, that is going to be sensitive to the person that's receiving it.
All right, Bruce, what are your thoughts, sir? Never hit a man where he's weak.
I hate to take it out of context. It sounds like insults or, making a man feel ashamed when you're in a relationship with him about something he may be insecure. But I'm looking at it as something, that'll make me weak. You know what I'm saying? That'll hurt me or devastate me, and the only thing I can think of is, taking my child away or keeping me from seeing my children. That is what I think can make a man feel weak, or that's a place where you can hit him. I think that's his weak spot. You know, using his children or weaponizing his children against him. So when I look at that, this statement it comes off as like a mockery to me, because that's like what's consistently happening when people separate or the relationships fail. It just hitting the man where he's weak is not really even considered. It's like a norm now. How do we make this man suffer if he don't act right in a relationship or he don't give you what you want? You know what I'm saying? And I think it's not just the woman that understands that this could devastate the man. The government, family courts all know this, so he used it against him. So I look at it as a mockery, man. It's just something that's a man's feelings is not really considered. That's my thoughts. Just keep it short.
And I just want to add to what Bruiser said about that last part, where a man's feelings aren't being considered. I think one context I can kind of put it in is that when you're an excellent husband or partner to a woman, it may seem like you're Superman a lot, and you could be very consistent in your ways. And we got to be honest, women tend to be more selfish in the relationship, and I think that's actually biological because of your survival instinct, right? So everything is me, 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 me. And you kind of forget that your man or your husband he's having a human experience too. So when he's going through something, you're like, he's never going through anything. They're very dismissive of the fact that he can actually be going through something, and hitting him where he's weak is sometimes just not recognizing that he's also human. Right. So it's just like he's always ain't nothing wrong with this guy. Like I've experienced that and seen that amongst a lot of my peers that are just so efficient that their wives forget that they're human, that they're not Superman all the time. And you need to give him the grace and the space to actually feel something instead of expecting him to, be that crack whip husband all the time.
I did highlight a couple of comments. Money, Marriage, and Media says hitting a man who is not your husband where he is weak often leads to a woman being trapped in a sex zone with no prospects of marriage. You guys think that's true?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think so. Yeah, men definitely will categorize you, and instead of getting rid of you physically, take advantage of you for what they think you're good for. and know that you're not good for anything beyond that because you're not safe. You're not stable enough. You're not a peaceful place. Why? Like, what else are you gonna do with you?
I think Bruiser's wife just spoke on this. That thing you sent me where she's like, women talk themselves out of relationships. I believe women also behave themselves out of a marriage proposal. I'm gonna be honest, I thought I was gonna marry my college girlfriend for quite a bit. And then, I graduated. Then we had time to be with each other without classes and all that. And that's exactly what happened. She talked herself right out of a ring. She behaved in a certain way where I was like, oh, well, you just turned off all my instinct to marry you, so I think that's very possible.
All right, that's deep, Sugar Mike.
The ability not to de-edify her man is part instinctive and part learned. Unfortunately, the single parent, most mom household leave women lacking. So now it's on the job training most times too late. The ability not to de-edify her man is part instinctive and part learned. Unfortunately, the single parent, most mom household leave women lacking. So now it's on the job training most times too late. I'm guessing they're saying that the ability to not do that is part instinctive and part learned. Like you either grow up seeing it around you and because you see that it becomes instinctive, or because you see it, you partially learn it. And then if it's a single parent household, then it's on the mom. But if she doesn't do it, by the time the child goes out into the job market, it's too late for them to learn or unlearn. I'm not sure, but
No,
that's
I
different from that.
that's not what I got from the comment. I got from the comment that
Yeah.
some of it is innate and the rest of it is learned through the household. And I think what he's getting at is in a single mother household, it's not being taught to women. And so they're only learning how to do it through trial and error through the dating or marriage process, is I think what he's getting at. And I disagree with that part. I think there's just as much training on doing it incorrectly in a dysfunctional home where the mother is not edifying her husband. You learn through example as well. Yes, some children use their innate, their experiences outside the home to unlearn those things. But I think it equally happens in dysfunctional homes as it does in single parent homes.
One of the things that I was thinking about too is in terms of, I think I think men learn to mind their words at an earlier point in time than women. And the reason I say that is because with men, especially when they're younger, when they say the wrong thing, I think there's swift consequences that come along with that. Among boys, like especially when they're playing around, if somebody says something out of turn, it can easily get physical. So I think, and then when they're playing sports, they're in environments where they are hearing, learning how to navigate that space by not, by minding their words. Whereas I think a lot of times with women, especially with our interaction with men when we're younger, men are trained to, protect. And so a lot of times I think we learn early that we can say whatever we want and may not necessarily have swift consequences at the same level that men do. And so when we're in relationship, I think that's where some of that that training comes in, in starting to learn how to man what you say, depending on the type of partner you have, because they are going to check that real quick. And speaking from experience, when I was younger, when we were young in our relationship, I may have come out my mouth like with the intent if we're arguing, but I've learned over the years when, as we dated, to learn to bring that in, because once you say something, you can't take it back. Even if you didn't mean it, you said it with the intent of trying to get the person angry because they made you angry. But once is out, is out. And then the ramifications of that never goes away. And so I think, we learn through trial and error to a degree.
All right. Marriage politics are pain. I just got through sending it to your email again, so make sure you check it right now. That's another comment that I highlighted as well, which was never tell a woman your dark secrets, they will use it against you. I've seen this somewhere else where it's just some things that you just don't tell. Is that true? You guys agree? Men?
Depends on the woman.
Yeah, I agree. It depends on the woman. I feel like I hate that people have gone through that to the point where now, like, that's why people can't have like those deep connections. But it definitely depends on a woman, and I will hope that like, if people think like that, they should stay and heal themselves before they go trying to be in a relationship with somebody, because that's a part of the reason why a lot of folks are having dysfunctional ass relationships. They're not healed from the shit that they've gone through. And if you're looking for a certain outcome from a person that didn't cause you the pain, it's trauma. So I don't know who needs to hear that, but I feel that way, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
I think that it depends on what the big dark secret is. I think there are certain things that should be discussed amongst men. And I think there are certain things in order to build trust in a relationship, that you work your way to that, right? And men often talk about, testing a woman's reaction when it comes to vulnerability with smaller things. And if she's able to handle that, gradually building their way up to something that may have a little bit more weight. But I think there are things in order to maintain a healthy dynamic, especially if you're looking for a traditional dynamic, that really should stay amongst men. And that goes for women as well. There are certain things that, you should talk to your girlfriends about and not your partner.
Mm.
Got something on the trigger?
No, I was trying to understand the concept text, but I think Inez kind of showed me what that was. I can kind of talk about it from a husband's perspective. We talk a lot about men protecting peace, and a large part of that in the house to protect it for yourself, for your children, and for your wife is keeping certain things to yourself. A lot of people won't advocate for that, especially women. Like, no, tell me everything. No. If you're a smart man, like I think Inez said, you test those waters early in the relationship, and then you make the ultimate determination about what she can handle, because you're just going to be creating problems for yourself. A lot of women suffer from anxiety that they themselves created by the things that they asked for. No, tell me. You can tell me anything. That's a lie. I cannot tell you anything, because then you're going to over worry about it. Then I'm going to have to over answer questions about it. Then that you sometimes lead to women taking actions outside of what a man would have done to rectify a situation she shouldn't have known about in the first place. So men have to guard the household in that way by saying, I don't want to, be irresponsible and just think I'm the king and not tell her things, but you definitely have to pick and choose what you tell your wife to keep that peace in the home. Absolutely.
Okay. Richard Payne, what's going on, sir? Welcome to the show. Glad to have you. Glad we was able to get that situated.
Yeah, thanks for letting me up. Hey, I'm sorry for you guys suffering through my last super chat. So
no,
but I guess you got it in the end. But just on this topic, I've been married for a long time as well. I told you that before, Jr. Been married for like 35 years, and I think Trigger Mike, what you said was absolutely right. I mean, you got to be cool with what you say to your wife. Some things she doesn't need to know. The important things she does, but you don't want your lady to worry about anything if you can help it, right? I mean, if things that you can solve, that doesn't require her to be part of the problem solving, just solve it. If there's other conversations you have, I mean, back on the previous topic, like when my wife has she came from a dual parent household with a mother and father. So she has some innate kind of understanding of what to say to me and when to say it and when not to say it. I mean, she was pretty good at that. I mean, I didn't have to teach her that. It's in there because I know it's in there because she knows all my secrets. And she very, very, very seldom, if ever, throws them back in my face. And I do the same for her. But just on this kind of topic, again, I talk about understanding the spirit of the person that you're with if you allow yourself to really get that close. So one of the things I see with my wife, without even speaking about it, I think she's calm. She's calm because we've talked about that. I said, listen, I'm gonna be your calm, through the chaos, because she used to get these like wrinkles up between her eyes. I said, you don't need those things there. That's why I'm here, So, and I used to talk to her about that at all. But the real truth that I know that my wife is, I'm not going to use the word happy. I'm not going to use the word content. I think she's not afraid of what's coming because when she goes to sleep at night, she's out in like 1 minute. I mean, I envy her because I can't. I'm bouncing around all night long. I mean, she goes to bed. When she goes to bed and lays her head on the pillow, she's out cold. And I said, well, you only can do that if you don't have a lot of worries. Most people can't do that. She does that. And, maybe I shouldn't take credit for it, but I do. I think it's because I'm around. you know, and she don't have to worry about nothing. And I'm not no Superman. I'm just a regular guy who came from a female-dominated household. And it's so funny. I'm really not negative about that, but I knew I had to get the hell out of there when I was 18. I was drowning in female estrogen, man. I became like an A student just to get to college, and all I wanted to do was, one, get laid, and second was be around men. Just be around men. I'm in a fraternity. I just wanted to know how men moved, how men dealt with problems, and all that kind of stuff. So that's one of the things off topic, but you know, that's it. What's going on, JR? Everybody's moving around.
What the hell going on? Who was that?
It does.
Hey, who's this?
Who's who?
Somebody said something.
Where's Inaz?
Should be back. That's it. If the same thing happened to her as I don't know what
Okay,
happened to
I
you
thought it
guys,
was my
but
computer, but obviously
including me.
not.
Yeah, no, it wasn't just you.
Trying to figure out what the hell going on here. I saw y'all start dropping them like,
Yeah,
damn.
what's going on?
Like, damn.
I'm like, should I miss the
I ain't
memo?
even saying nothing.
Boycott. We boycott.
Right.
So don't blame that one on me, man. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, shit, Payne, like, damn, shit, they didn't like what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Let me go and try to fix this. Fix it back right. But go ahead, Payne. I mean to cut you off, man. I know you got.
No, I mean, you know, I was finished with my little rant there. I mean, I like this topic about solutions and stuff like that. So relationships are, you know, kind of my, I say kind of my thing, but that's only because I've been in one for so long.
Yeah.
You know, and I still talk to people who are not in relationships. I talk to men who are having trouble with their relationships. And, you know, a lot of my family members, you know, they have issues that I try to help them with, you know, but I'm not like a licensed professional. I can just give them my opinions. That's about it.
Hey, but it's 100% necessary, and I'll tell you why. Because there's only so many things a licensed clinician can say, and only so many views they can, type of words they can use. What's missing from the community, well, the lack of community, is people's perspective. So people do not have a real perspective anymore from a lived experience. So in many ways, your opinion and your perspective is more helpful and more necessary right now than the DSM-5. All right, so that's what I'll say about it.
Yeah, there you go.
I appreciate that.
If you guys just tuning in, welcome to The Solution on the Lapeef Experience. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We did have some super chats that came through. John the Baptist, $10 says, a woman's love is overrated. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord. I don't read the Bible, so I'll go ahead with that one. Any help? Ephesians.
A woman's love is overrated. Ephesians. A woman's love is
No.
overrated is wild.
No. Yeah.
That's wild. But you got it, John.
Honey 499 says, when a man's vulnerability is violated, he will never give the same level of access if he even stays in a relationship. Shout out to you. Mm-hmm. It's not that I haven't read the Bible. I've read some parts of it. I've gone to church, but I'm not a frequent reader. So some of those
Bible
words,
thumper, it's okay.
Yeah, I have it. I'm gonna start reading it. I said I'm gonna start reading it because you guys bring it up all the time, and it seems like there's a lot of stories to tell in there.
It's actually a pretty good roadmap.
Yeah, I see. And then plus Kelly is on my ass about it too. So
let me add one real quick thing to the Bible thing, JR.
Go ahead.
There's usually correlations. Yeah, in the secular world, right? So I kind of use the story because everybody's not religious. So if you can find good things out of the Bible, but express them in a secular fashion, that works as well. Because sometimes when you mention God and Bible, you turn off people who are not really into that. You know, I mean, that's their fault, but, you know, everybody's not into it. There's like the atheists in the country, almost up to around 35, 40%. They still need to be in relationships. They still need to understand how things work because there are corollaries between the Bible and the regular secular life as well. Not 100%, but there's a lot. A lot of those stories apply to just regular people. You know, that's all I
There are
want to say on
atheists
that.
that know the Bible better than Christians. I
Yeah,
know
a
some
lot of them do.
atheists that
And
know,
Muslims.
yeah, better. Yeah, I mean,
That's because they used to be
a
Christians.
Muslim, yeah, I mean, or vice versa. But like,
Yeah.
but yeah, like there are people that are not. I'm not religious. I'm fully spiritual, and I read my Bible every morning, not because of anything else other than the fact that it's literally a roadmap for real. Like you said, there is definitely correlation between like what's in that book and what happens in real life. And if you're just gonna start, I think you should start with Proverbs. You get all your best quotes out of there, and you see how that book of wisdom legitimately is very interesting stuff. Like it's
Well,
poetry,
all right, Bishop Mogulette. All right, we got you.
you know.
I'm going to call the rest of these super chats real
It's the
quick.
easiest read.
John the Baptist $10 again says it is safer for a woman to pray to God about her man rather than speaking ill to a man while they behold the chase conversation coupled with fear. What you say when it's a number before? You said when it's a number before. What does that mean? When it's a number before it?
That's First Peter.
First Peter. Remember you said I said it wrong last time? Okay, First Peter chapter 3, verse 2. Okay, I said it right. There we go.
Yep.
All right. Appreciate that super chat. I'm learning, man. I'm trying to get it together. Jones Boy 804189 says salute to the panel in the chat. He in the basement $2 also member says Lady T, where's the hearing test headphones?
I hate stay in the basement.
Upgraded.
Okay.
There's politics.
No
Sports
sun for you.
says, exactly. Appreciate you, sir.
Yeah.
Black's Lexicon $10 says the weaponization of love is the one lesson every man will learn once in his life, never twice.
That's why so many bitter men out here.
Yeah, I appreciate all the super chats coming through thus far. Thank you guys. Now it's time to get to the meat of the conversation. We know the ladies like the meat.
Ow.
Okay, Sham on they doing a dance. Our next topic of the night, hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Is would you stay with a woman if she said she is not in love with you but meets all your needs? Would you stay with a woman if she says she is not in love with you but meets all of your needs? What do you guys thoughts about that? I got a video I'm gonna play, but I'm just curious.
This is good.
Trigger
Once
Mike.
we men, I think.
To answer that.
I don't even want to go first. I'm very long-winded, so please, someone.
No, I'm just asking, like, would you stay? You know, but before we
Hell no.
So if a woman says that she's not in love, but she mees all you need, you wouldn't
No.
stay.
I'm gonna give you the what's the get out? No. No.
What are your thoughts about that question? You keep it brief. You ain't got to hop into it yet.
Nah, to keep it brief, because people can outgrow you. We've seen it happen with Derek Jackson and his wife. He outgrew her, and he didn't need her no more, so he was out. So I think one thing about love is it'll keep you connected regardless of what you need from a person, because it's like a charitable energy. Just to keep it short.
All right, Richard Payne, what are your thoughts, sir, when you hear this question? Would you
I heard that question. It's on the context of what we're talking about. I mean, are we talking about, and I don't even try to get deep, but are we talking about like agape love, friendship love? What kind of love are we talking about? Romantic love? Because part of a long marriage, I would say, is commitment and obligation. And a lot of times we talk about love as a feeling, right? And I think out of 35 years, you know, I think I caught my wife looking at me side eye once in a while. Shit, you know, I don't know whether it's still love or not. But I mean, of course, I don't think she ever fell out of love with me because she always moved in the right kind of way. I never fell out of love with her, but it just kind of depends on what you're talking about. It depends on what your family needs at the time. Because if a person, when you say she no longer loves you. It doesn't mean that she no longer likes you. Does that mean she's no longer obligated to the family that you're trying to build? Are your kids out of the house? Are they still in the house? You know, men don't generally leave. You know, the statistics kind of say we stick around. And I would say we stick around through a lot of thick and thin. And part of that has to be whether a woman still is infatuatedly in love with us, right? And maybe some people do it, stay around for financial reasons. Some guys might cut out because I would never blame a man for leaving. If he needs that from his wife, I'm talking about not boyfriend and girlfriend, but he needs that from his wife, that kind of tough, romantic love all the time. But by all means leave. But I'm saying it ain't that easy when you have that marriage. And I mean, if my kids are grown and all that, maybe that's true. But when my two daughters were of formative age, I was going to stay with my wife no matter what. I was never going to let another man get close to my daughters. I don't care whether we were in love or not. I don't need to be happy. When I told my father-in-law that I was going to take his daughter and I'm never giving her back, all I was saying is that my happiness was secondary to my vows and my obligation. And it's easy for me to say that now that I'm, 35 years in there. But I'm glad I didn't have to face that. I really am, because I don't know what I would do. But just walking away and thinking about some other dude knocking out my wife and my kids in the same house, and I'm paying for it. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, that's my long-winded take on it.
All right. Mistake, you gotta get you some shades. Your head was looking straight, but your eyes were going like this. I'm like,
sound like you already thought about it, Richard.
Well, I thought about a lot of things. I thought about a lot of things over the course of the years. I just didn't have to face them. You know what I'm saying? But these things go through your heads. I mean, at least they should. I mean, 35 years is a long time, So, I mean, I'm looking at my camera, so I might be darting all around. So forgive me if I don't look, straight at it. But
it just sounds like you got that negative motivation. Like whenever you running late from work and you think you imagine another man hitting, you start speeding up to get home.
No. I just use that as to ram home a point. I never worry about those kind of things for my honey. I'm glad I didn't do that either. But I mean, just to prove the point, just to throw the story out there. But it wouldn't be that easy for me to just leave my woman because I don't think she has this real deep love for me. Maybe I just don't think it's that easy. I think it's easier said than done. I really do.
All right, Eric, welcome back. I'm gonna go to you with this one. Was asking all the men would they leave. You don't have to go deep into it. I do have a video to play the context, but would you stay with a woman if she says she's not in love with you, but she meets all your needs? I can't hear you.
You're on mute.
No, he's not on mute, but it's no sound. It's like the mic is not connected. Whatever mic you use is not connected. Nope. While he's doing while you go ahead and get that together, I'll come back to you. Let me go ahead and play this video for you guys.
And first and say, if you had a woman who will do everything that you want, fulfill all your needs, but she cannot say that she is in love with you, will you be okay with that? Tons of men will be okay with that. Because their needs are being met. It logically makes sense. They don't need the I love you, right?
All right, there we go. That's the
there
video.
You go.
Context.
Right. I agree with him.
Okay. All right. After seeing the video,
can you
go ahead.
Can you do it one more time?
Okay, I'll do it one more time.
Thank you.
Go to a man first and say, if you had a woman who will do everything that you want, fulfill all your needs, but she cannot say that she is in love with you, will you be okay with that? Tons of men will be okay with that. Because their needs are being met. It logically makes sense. They don't need the I love you, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm ready now.
All right.
So I think he's right. Tons of men will be okay with it. But not every man can really swing that type of arrangement. I see that type of thing working out for very high earners, men who really just need respect from their woman. But you start to run into issues in the average relationship. All right, where you come home every day, you're not working an excessive amount of hours, and I'll try to explain to the best of my ability why I believe you'll run into those issues. So there's a reason that saying goes, go with the one that likes you, not the one you like. All right. So when a woman truly loves you, you control her mind and her body. When a woman doesn't love you, you don't have that control, which means somebody else can come in and control her mind and or her body. That's going to be a problem for most average men in relationships. It's going to take an effect on the children. It's going to take an effect on the stability of your household. So you have to have a woman that's truly in love with you, or at least trying to renew her love for you all the time, so you can control the way your home situation goes. I know most people who are really rich, they have that type of arrangement where it's like, we never really loved each other. She's so agreeable to everything. She knew I wanted children, but I work 80 hours a week. Right? Love can't really exist in that relationship because there's no time to cultivate it. But 90% of the rest of the world, the rest of the men in the world need their woman to love them in order to carry out a family in an effective manner.
And another thing that I thought about, y'all were, I think Lady Mogulette was talking about, love is how she was, going through the love thing. But one of the ones that was in here says love endures. And I think for a woman, that is a big thing, a big connection for her to want to even stay in a relationship, even doing all of the duties, like when he mentioned in the clip that if she's meeting all of your needs, many times a woman is doing that out of love. Is that love that even when she don't want to do it, that I know you guys say like is out of obligation and commitment, but when it's connected with love, it makes it much easier. And you can feel the difference when they are doing those things, when they are in love with you versus it's just a duty. And yeah, the whole thing is love endures. They'll stick it in. Sorry. They'll stick the let me shut up right there. But y'all know what I'm saying.
Oh, hell yeah.
What y'all got going on today, man?
Can you hear me now,
And
bro?
Oh
they'll
my
stick in
God.
there, meaning they'll stick in
Somebody about to go love on their man. That's what that means there.
Elaborate
Subliminal signals.
brain. Mhm.
Can you hear me now, bro?
Yeah, we can hear you. You want to go and answer that question?
Yeah, I'm not going to connect to that tangent, but I'm going to go a different direction. So I was married for 21 years and I was in a relationship that was just like that. At first, the love was strong. There was a lot there. We were into each other. We had a lot of things in common. Stuff was we was popping. But then as other things entered into the picture, children, responsibilities, buying a home, taking care of other family members. What happened is those obligations and responsibilities took precedence over the love. And both of us were very responsible individuals, right? So being responsible actually took the place of the love that we have for each other. And quite often I see that happening in many different relationships. Two responsible people don't want to let any of the balls drop as they're juggling. And what happens is they lose the love, and oftentimes they lose their own identity. Now, what that sets up is the opportunity to see something outside of the marriage. And that's where things start to open up for you to kind of cheat, kind of dip and dab, and do other things
And that's why sometimes people can like live that double life. For me, in the latter part of my marriage, that's kind of what happened. Straight up. Like I started seeing things that were more appealing because it looked more like the beginning of my marriage than the end. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. In the latter part of our marriage, there was no love. We didn't have love for each other. And when we sat down and was honest with each other, we looked each other in the face and was like, why are we here? What are we doing? And we both made an amicable decision to separate and then divorce. And more often than not, a lot of people have those types of relationships and they're just not honest with themselves because number one, they think they're doing it for the kids, not realizing that you're giving the kids a horrible example of how to have a relationship and really not be honest. And then number two, how it looks in front of everybody else. But they're not really being true to themselves and they're not being true to their relationship.
I got a question for you, brother. Is it better to give the kids a charade of an example of love and, you know, show them that imitation, even though you don't want to be there? Or is it better to just leave the household?
The thing about it is, man, kids have more discernment than grown-ups. My
Really?
boys told me they knew what was going on all along, bro.
So because your boys told you that, you made a determination that a child has better discernment than an adult.
No, you don't understand. The reason why a child has more discernment because they're not clouded by all the stuff that's going on in the world like we are. They see things for what it really is, bro. Have you ever talked to a child and they just come up to you and say, why you got that booger in your nose? Why she got that hat on? They don't live with filters,
Have no
bro.
filter, right?
I
They have
agree.
absolutely no filters.
I agree
So
with you that they don't have any filters, but to say that they have better they got better judgment, they
no, I
easier
didn't say
No
judgment.
discernment.
I
They
said
have better
discernment.
discernment. Yeah. They
And
may not be as
that's a
wise.
big difference.
Yeah,
I
they
don't
may
agree
not
with
be as
that.
wise.
They
But
don't have better discernment. That's literally calling them an adult. But what I do agree with you
But they
saying,
know what's phony, bro.
yeah.
Kids know what's
yeah,
phony. They know when love ain't love. I'm telling you. Look at the women nodding and the men not. Really, really check that. A child knows. And I'm
So it's better.
telling you,
So it's
children be
better. So
knowing.
that's my
and I'm
question. So it's
telling you,
better
I
to
had these discussions with my grown sons later. Like all my sons are grown. My youngest son is 28 years old, and literally they let me know, Dad, we knew something was wrong. We
Yeah,
knew
babies know
something was up.
everything. Some kids know
And they don't
everything.
need to know the details, but they saw.
But they feel it. They
Yeah,
feel it in
but
the air.
the only way they can feel it and know anything about it is if you're not all the way in. If you're not buying into marriage, you got
Have you
like
ever been in danger?
a lot of people
Sorry.
lack selflessness when they get in these relationships and they procreate without that trait, and that's very much needed. So you got to set aside the needs and wants that you want for the sake of the marriage and the children, and that's what we're not
Bruiser, I
doing. And that's
did
why
that. Hey, Bruiser, I did that, but the question was about love and loving that woman.
right, but yeah, but regardless of it, if you love her or not, there's still duty and sacrifice that doesn't have to be removed.
Hey, bro, I stayed until they was all grown and went to school.
Richard,
I
you're
understand.
muted, Mr. Payne.
Yeah, I got it. It just sounds like it was more than just a lack of love going on. And that's what the kids picked up on. They might have picked up on that you're not in this real love relationship, but maybe you're arguing a lot, that kind of stuff. And
We
so
never argued.
if we
never argued.
expand the question to how a lack of your woman's love manifests within a household, then I can see where you're coming from. But if it's something that her feeling just doesn't give to you, the way you express that in front of your children could be different, but based on the kind of understanding you'll have with your woman. So it sounded like a lot of the stuff that was going on, they were able to see. I'm not making any judgment about that, but that's probably why they picked up on it. And then even if they picked up on a lack of love, I don't know if that's discernment. That's just a feeling. Your kids will pick up on a lot of stuff in your household. I mean, I won't argue with that.
But this is what I want to tell you. I kissed her in front of them. I bought her flowers. I did a lot of things. And the thing about it is, we sacrificed our love for them. So the question is, would you stay with a woman if she is not in love with you, but meets your all your needs? I did that for a
So let
very
me
long
ask you, what do you
time.
mean sacrificed your marriage for the kids? What do you mean by that?
What
I
it
mean,
meant is that we stayed together because I didn't want my sons to grow up without a father.
okay. I mean, I understand. I said pretty much the same kind of thing, but I don't know if we sacrifice. I don't know if that's the same as sacrificing your love because of the kids. You sacrifice your happiness and you went through your commitment because of the kids.
But I didn't love her.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. But you didn't sacrifice love. You just sacrificed you followed through with your vows until they were a certain age.
So what happened to the love then, Mr. Payne?
Well, I mean, you fell out of love because love is a feeling. You know,
Love is a
love, depending
choice.
on the kind of love you're talking about, it's a feeling.
Okay, so both of y'all just said something different. Love is a feeling and love is a choice. Which one is it?
It's still a feeling. It's
feelings
still
could
a
be.
feeling, but it's a choice. It's expressed using feelings.
Yeah, I don't want to
But
seem
it
like
is
I'm
a choice.
pounding on him, though. I don't want to seem like I'm getting on you because I kind of know where you're coming from. One of the things.
No, you're not pounding on me.
No, I
This
just
is
wanted to
actually a
make sure since
discussion.
I'm newer here, I don't want to put it in any kind of wrong context. I just can't. I can see where you're coming from, but I look at it a lot differently. I'm sorry for cutting you off, Bruiser. My whole thing is when you have a wife, a man, when you cleave to your woman and you have a relationship and a wife, and you start having children, one of the things that you have to understand is that the kids are not the center of your household. It's your relationship, right? Your relationship governs all of that stuff, right? So, and part of that relationship is the vows, the commitment, the obligation. And I guess love is in there too, high. I mean, I love my wife and like I said, I'm happy I didn't have to worry about that. So
That's kind of sounds like an afterthought though, Richard, real talk. I mean,
okay.
ladies, what y'all hear? Like, let's get some of the ladies in on this conversation
Yeah,
because it's
that's
just
what it
man talk.
definitely does sound like afterthought, but that's what it sounds like. It sounds like I feel like even the guy that sent the chat in earlier said a woman's love is overrated. I
Oh, I
feel
didn't
like a
agree with
lot of
that.
a lot
Well,
of
you know
men
what I
a
think
lot
he
of
was
men
also a.
Hold on,
Go
Trick.
ahead.
Hold on, Trick. Let her
Go ahead,
finish.
Carl.
Okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, like I feel like a lot of guys sometimes feel that way. And someone spoke to um the marriages in high income family homes or high network homes. For some people it's dysfunctional. For some folks, a lot of men are caught up on optics. So if they're a slave to optics and a woman gives him everything that he needs and maybe he doesn't he doesn't need her for anything emotional. He doesn't need her for I mean, whatever his needs are, she meets them. He's not necessarily concerned with that. And Mr. Payne just spoke to the fact that he's been married 30 plus years. The last thing that he listed on the list of important things in his home was love. He's like, I guess I mean, I'm glad she loves me. That's not something I gotta worry about. And maybe that's because he's privileged. So that's the last thing he's thinking about since that's not something you got to consider. No, and that's a good thing. So, and I meant to say that earlier. Shout out to you and your wife for 30 plus years and her being able to fall asleep quickly too, because she know that her husband has it covered. But a lot of times people take that for granted too. So maybe that's why he said it last as a married man that knows that he's in a loving marriage. A lot of times we take the things that just happen naturally that are in our day to day for granted. So that's the last thing he mentioned. But I mean, if we're going to be honest here, a lot of guys speak to that love piece as though, like these days anyway, in the podcasting, YouTube, Clubhouse scene, they make it seem as though a woman's love is the last thing on their mind. They just want a woman for what they want a woman for. It's just like, another tool in the day. So.
Hold on, y'all. Let me get Inaz in there. Go ahead, Inaz.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree with Lady T. I think that love coming last is interesting, especially because vows came before that. to love, honor, and cherish is part of vows. So I guess that part kind of threw me off a little bit. But so often all over social media, we talk about how, you know, women are leaving the household, women are unhappy, women are selfish, women are all of these things. But if we're not concerned about love, or it's at the bottom of the list, are we not having a conversation about how it could be a huge factor to it, right? If it's just obligation, that's one end of the extreme, right? If it's just love, that's the total other end of the extreme. And I think to what Richard was talking about with his marriage is a balance of the two, right? You have to have that love and you have to have that obligation, because love is a feeling, love is a choice, it's fleeting. Sometimes you don't choose it. Life happens, right? We're all human beings. But if you don't have the two working in tandem, there's a lack of safety net in your relationship and is subject to failure, really.
Agreed. The thing you said about vows is very important, and it is to love, you know, honor and cherish. And I would make note that men and women experience, or should I say, give out love a bit differently. Because the way of course, I love my wife and I've loved her since, you know, the time I proposed to her up until now. But love, the way men express love is through adherence to our duty. Okay. I love you because I'm coming home every day, every single day. I pay the mortgage every month. I do, like, you see what I'm saying? That is a very hard, that type of love is actually, as you can see in modern times, very hard for a woman to acquire. A man's consistency is his love to a woman, right? So that is probably why, if you ever hear that Trigger Mike got divorced, she left me, because I have other factors that I'm bound to through my culture as to why I would never leave my woman in that way. And I feel like too many men abandon their duty because they're allowed to in this Western culture, right? So I think during the phases of a relationship, you have to find ways to keep on. That's what a man stays bound to. I'm here because I said I was going to be forever, right? A woman's going to love differently. She's going to need those softer, you know, type of things. And you're still going to need to wine and dine her, let her know she's beautiful and do all of that. But me still being there, the totality of my presence is my love, because now I won't give way to my desires. That's me actually falling out of love. It's too easy for me to say, well, we're not really seeing eye to eye right now. There's all these other hoes out here, so let me just go be with them. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, I feel like that's one way that men show that they're too easily discarding the love that, you know, Inaz was talking about.
All right.
Can I just add? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, lady. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to add that, like, I think it's important for us to actually touch on, like Mr. Payne earlier was speaking to the kinds of love. I'm not trying to necessarily go down that route, but the fact that, like, we feel and express love differently. So for a man, like, a lot of men can be okay with a woman not being in love with him as long as she respects him, because that's the kind of love that y'all can't get enough of. Like, as long as you respect me, as long as you honor me, I'm not gonna feel like I don't have to. You're not gonna try to, you know, emasculate me in any type of way. Obviously, I'm not a man, so, you know, these are not paraphrasing, you know, but like, so, you know, those things, I feel like those are more important to a man than, like, the affections outside of those moments that he's looking for from his woman. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was pretty important to state
That's a good
that.
point. That's a good point.
Go ahead, Shannon.
I was going to say something else, but I was going to give Shannon a chance to say something I hadn't heard from the ladies.
I mean, the question was really, you know, to the men, Shit, if she loves me, I mean, you know, I don't know what men would think, but I will say from a female's point of view, a lot of what you get does come from love. Like when she makes that house a home, it's out of love. The way she cooks is out of love. How she treats you is out of love. Of course, she respects you because she should respect everybody. But I think that the above and beyond that women do, I think that that comes from love. And I know love is fleeting and all that, but that's in love. You can still love somebody and he gets on your last nerve. You know what I'm saying? So it's just different levels to it. I'm not saying she has to be in love with you, like the fuzzy feeling, but that's still like, oh, I don't want anything bad to happen. I still love him. And I just think that that's important for women. I know maybe not for men, but for women that is important because, I mean, just think about it. Most households, I know Trigger Mike did a great job explaining earlier, and I agree with everything that he had to say. But most households aren't, you know, let's just be real. I know everybody on the internet, all the men on the internet pay all the bills, but that's just not the norm, you know. And so for a woman to come home, pay 50%, and she's cooking, and she's cleaning, and she's running up out of kids, it's got to be some love in there somewhere, you know, even because sometimes the duty is she's cooking food for the kids, and well, you're there too, so might as well make you a plate as well. I'm just joking. It's Monday night. But I mean, possibly, but I do think that women, it's important love for a woman. I don't know, you know, it's important, just like Trigger Mike said, because it opens that door for it to come from somewhere else. And when a woman doesn't feel love, it's an emptiness there, and you don't want it to come from somewhere else. So that's all I have to say.
All right. Go ahead, Eric. I know you said you want to chime in.
No, all I was going to say is this. Trigger Mike, you're right. Men do love like that, but my love was probably more on the feminine side because my mom didn't give me that. So when I went into my relationship, I was actually looking for a lot of the things that I didn't get from my mom. So the touches, the things like that of that nature, I wanted that from her. So I did what you said, you know, took care of business, brought money home, like she ain't had to work, you know, a lot of things. But then I also needed that other side too. And the reason why I realized that I needed that other side, and I think I'm speaking to a lot of men, because I think there's a lot of brothers out here that have that hard, well, we got to stop cussing because I don't want to put no more money in the jar, but, you know, those hard moms when we grew up in those neighborhoods that was like, yo, you know, you got to be this certain way or you're going to be, you know, left short. But for me, when that happened to me, it took me to a whole nother side where I really didn't get that. So when I went into a marriage, and the reason why I stayed for 21 years, I don't know if I mentioned that, but I stayed there for 21 years is because of the commitment, because of what I believed. Also, you know, my beliefs, you know what I'm saying? Like divorce was the last thing on the mind. But then when we really sat down and talked together, it was like, man, what's the purpose? Why are we here? And when we both looked at each other, we really couldn't even answer that question. And that's when we came to our decision. Now, you know, that was our decision, but I definitely wouldn't say that that's for everyone.
Yeah.
I appreciate you being so transparent. Like, shout out to you for that. My bad. I just had to say that because a lot of guys act like it's a problem to be looking for affection and nurturing. And these days men get shamed for it, but it's needed. But that's all I'm gonna say for now. Go ahead, Ina.
Thank you. No, I second that. Thank you so much for that, Eric. But I think I heard what Trigger Mike said slightly differently, and I'm going to ask him to clarify or at least correct me if I heard it wrong. He mentioned the totality of his presence, right? So it wasn't just that he was physically there. It wasn't just that he's mentally there. Like his entire being is there. And I think for women, if there's a part of you that's missing, that becomes a problem, right? So Trigger Mike, maybe you can clarify, did I hear you correctly when you were addressing the totality of your presence?
Yes, you did. Yes, me and all my manness. But it is that physical, mental, and spiritual component that I was referencing. So you're right.
Oh, you done in this? I didn't want to cut you off.
No, I was just gonna say thank you. You got it.
I mean, my perspective might be a little bit different, but I understand what the man was saying in the video about him just needing a woman to fulfill his basic needs, and like Lady Muggalette said about respect. Let a man do that. But I think the issue with love, and apparently it sounds like that's where the struggle is being able to love. I think it's being able to understand how to love, how to use your love in a relationship. And I think it, from my experience, I've been married for almost 10 years, and it strongly relates to appreciating what someone's doing, what someone's bringing to the relationship, and what someone's doing for you and for your children. And when you're able to appreciate those things they're adding into your life, and then you're able to return that with love, because I firmly believe that love is charity. It's something that you choose to do. God gave us the ability to love Him. He didn't force us to love Him. He gave us our own will. If we decide to love Him, we can, just like we can love one another. So I think it's a lack of appreciation when we're not able to love our partners. Uh, Coming home from work every day, working for a garbage company, 9 to 5, coming home like garbage, working in coal mines, just to make sure everybody's got a house over their head and everybody's eating. A woman who can't show appreciation for that, and vice versa, for a woman to go out here and carry your child and cook and clean and keep the house tidy and make sure you're good to go, and for us not to show appreciation for those things, and in exchange return love for that appreciation. It just sheds light on us not using our love uh, in a way to where it substantiates what they're doing for us, or a way we can appreciate what you're doing for me. You know what I'm saying?
So can I ask a question then?
And
So
last
like,
thing,
all right, go ahead.
and like Tupac said, even though his mother did all those things and stuff, he appreciate the love that she gave him. That's all I want to say.
So would it be fair then to say that even though love is all encompassing, right? Yes, it's a verb. Yes, it's a choice. Yes, it's an emotion. Yes, it's a feeling, because feelings and emotions are two different things. The rabbit hole am I going down? Um, would it be fair then to say that without the humility, without the gratitude, love can't be present, or a love that makes you want to stay actively involved in your marriage can't be present? It's mostly like it's a question to the married men, or well, married and divorced men on the panel.
I believe you touched basically two of the basic pillars of marriage, like humility, and what was the other one?
I think it was appreciation, gratitude.
Yeah. But both of those things I think are enormous. So as I think Bruiser was talking, I was just having a thought about what Mr. Eric said, and I think a lot of men do that duty part up until their kids leave. You said you made sure your kids had the positive example until they all left the nest. And, I hear that so much that I just wonder what that's going to be like for me. So here's some more honesty, for you. I do worry about that, right? Because I'm definitely a candidate where I'm riding this thing all the way until my kids are going to have a positive example. So it don't matter how pissed off I get, I'm going to ride it out for them. And then when they leave the nest, you have to deal with your partner and your issues at that time. And I think where it comes from me, like you said, the humility, because one of the things that we go through as men is that we're going to increase in resource and value as we get older. Right. So I think you have to be a little more. Stop shaking your head, Shan. Yes. Men financially peak in their 40s. Right. We're gonna have more
Yeah, but
money.
listen,
Whatever thing we doing is gonna finally start thinging when we in that age. Most
They
men.
increase financially, but that ED though. No, I'm
Exactly.
joking.
yeah, but does
If you
anybody?
don't
Are we
look, they
talking?
make 3 different types of Viagra. You better chill out. All right.
Listen, they do,
If it
but
gets
they
so hard,
absolutely
we'll
do
end up dying
increase.
alone with them pills.
Listen,
All right, but let me finish my
I
point.
take it. Okay, go ahead, and then I want to speak on that because I have like a little pushback a little bit.
Well, I'm glad I spiced it up a little bit. All right, so I'm just saying that I think I do need to be humble in the sense that even though I can go out here and get another woman, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'm very afraid to leave someone whom I share so much of my identity with. Right. So I look at because I'm gonna be honest with you. Every person I know that's been with someone so long, when they leave, you still that person, wife or husband. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna address you as anything else. In my culture, they call you by the name of your first child. It's mommy such and such, and then the other name after that is such and such wife or husband. Like, they won't call you anything different. You could be with somebody new and they're gonna be like, that person's husband, like you. So I'm really afraid to leave someone whom I share that much history with, and I really feel like there's no point to it. Let me know what y'all thought. Or unless, of course, if there's abuse or, the extreme stuff. But if it's something that can be worked through, I'm gonna work through it simply because, yeah, I'm just her husband for an eternity at this point.
I guess I have more of a question than a suggestion. Since you're already very aware of this, right? Are you doing anything preventative or are you waiting to, meet that roadblock?
So at this point, it's just the awareness. It's just the awareness. I think we got a lot of life till our children are still young. We've been married 4 years. I think what it really is for me is just like I said, the adherence to the duty, but also learning from my elders. I've always taken a very keen focus on what my elders are doing because nobody has just a great marriage, right? You got to really get a detailed focus on how are they making this thing work from day to day. And, as much as they're willing to tell you, get the problems and how they work through it, right? Because I feel like relationships, marriages go through phases, and then you have to want to willingly engage with your partner who may be a brand new person after that phase. I personally think a postmenopausal woman is probably a huge stage for a man to understand.
Can I add something to what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Let me take you back.
Here.
Let me throw this out at you because you mentioned this thing about looking into the future about the woman that's going to be around you when you have an empty nest. One of the things that I did was early on when we first started having children. We have 2, and I mentioned this here already. I told my wife we had I'm just going to say what happened. One day she mentioned something about her kids. She used that term. A lot of women do that. These are my kids. My first priority are my kids, blah, blah, blah. So I stopped her and said, you know what? They're not your kids. They're our kids. They're our kids. I don't want you to go around saying these are your kids. They're our kids. And I said, our kids will be taken care of if we take care of our relationship. And I said, our relationship is the center of this household. What we do and how we grow together is going to take care of the kids automatically. And one of the reasons why I said that is because we did talk about what we would do when we be empty nesters. And that's where we are pretty much today. Because I didn't want to look over to a woman that was unrecognizable to me when we're in our 50s and 60s, And so, so one of the things, we always had healthy vacations without our kids. We found ways to take care of them. We took them with us sometimes. I think it was a mistake for some couples never to have a vacation without their kids around. I think that's crazy. So we did things to keep us close. We have a lot of same things that are in common, and even though I had this difference in the love question, I mean, I know we're still in love. I mean, I asked my wife to marry me after 5 months, right, of just knowing her. I said, this is it. I'm not moving any further. I was like 29. She was 26, something like that. But anyway, but gets back on the point. So the things you want to be prepared for in the future with your wife, if you're planning to be married to her forever, is that those seeds have to be planted now. And if you allow the seeds to grow with a woman who naturally will start to just focus on the kids if you let her, that's where those divisions start to happen, because you become secondary or even tertiary, depending on how many kids you have. So I always wanted to make sure that, yeah, you're going to be nurturing, you're going to be loving, you're going to, do a lot for the kids. But I made sure my wife always knew that in our household, our marriage was number one. Our relationship was number one. And that I love my kids just as much as she does, and that's how we built this thing. And, so even today, one of my daughters is out of the house. The other one graduated. She came back so she could save some money. But the deal is we have like Sunday dinners, right? So, and actually I cook a lot too. And you probably can tell. But anyhow, so Sunday dinners, my other one comes back home, not every Sunday, but maybe twice a month. And we sit around the table and we talk. And I like that because now I'm talking to full-fledged adults, right? My daughters have their own thought processes, and which is good for me. I learned. So I don't want to get too much off the topic. So, Trigger Mike, if the things you want about from your wife, you're cultivating right now in your marriage, right? So that's part of my 35 years. We go back and forth, the ups and downs. And the one last thing I'm going to say about humility with my wife. I understand the laws in the United States, and that every man who marries a woman, she has a loaded gun, right? The state gives her a loaded gun. I never let our disagreements get to the point where she ever had to make some kind of decision to try to leave me, right? Because if she did, I would be destroyed. Your woman could destroy you if you don't have a real solid prenup. So I always had a healthy respect for the fact that this woman I'm dealing with at any time could just pull the trigger. So, I mean, it sounds extreme, but it was always in the back of my head because I was, I didn't call it that, but I was always red pill enough about the realities of marriage. So I always gave her a healthy deference. Not that we talked about that, but that's in my head. And luckily again, we never got to the point where we had those kind of disagreements where I had to put my foot down and say, if it's not this way, get the hell out, or I'm leaving. I was lucky or blessed that we never had to do that. But I always knew, if she got me in the courtroom with bows in her hair and stuff and, crying, man, the judge with a job, I'd be working for food outside the street. So because she hasn't had to work for years. She does. She worked for the church, but that's just a labor of love. So she don't have to ask me for beer money. But so you gotta as a man, we gotta understand if we're in this relationship, in the United States, that we have to understand we have to cultivate it always. We have to always cultivate it and move it in the direction that we need it to move. And part of that's picking the right woman, of course. But, again, I was just blessed that I ran into her. So I don't know if that helps enough, but it's really how what you want in the future is how you start planting those seeds today. Yeah. That's it.
Bruce, you want to respond?
No, man. I just want to say appreciate everybody's perspective. It's good to be on a panel whenever it's all about the solution. It's a different energy I ain't never really felt on the Lapeef Network. I thought Lapeef Network was all about, Bruiser, you better have your points right because they ain't going to come for you.
Well,
evolution, man, evolution.
Yeah, I seen Bruiser taking notes. I seen him shed a few tears.
Yeah. I just want to say, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's not the energy on the solution, thankfully.
Yeah, certainly not. The reason why I share my story, y'all, because it's just a very real story. Trigger Mike, by the way, everything you said is on point. And this is what's so wild about it. When people said the love, so I'm gonna end it with this. The reason why me and her had that talk and we really talked is that we both ended it. We love each other, but we loved each other enough to not be in something that we didn't want to be in.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm gonna end it on. And it was a mutual agreement. It wasn't, I'm out, make me sick, none of that. We mutually agreed on that.
So I commend you for that, man. You made sure the number one thing was, I mean, well, the kids, made sure that they were good to go. That's really what matters when you actually have children in these relationships. And that's where I think the struggle is with societies, that we don't consider the children. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but when we say we don't consider the children, but then tell miserable adults to stay together for the sake of the children, are we considering the children?
So I have. Oh, go ahead.
I'm not going to give you a speech like Trigger Mike's about to, but I would say the kids got a better chance at life when they got both parents in the household.
So
okay.
Yeah, it's real weird, right? So we get in the weeds and we make this conversation very gray. And if men are actually going to take back the community, as women are so very asking us to, or at least it's necessary that we do, you got to understand that as men, we're very black and white. And in order for us to execute things properly, we need to be that way. All right. So there's a lot of gray that could be said about staying for the kids, so to speak, but it's black and white, right? Like we have to talk about it as black and white. I understand that it can be damaging, but as adults, like let's say, it's a personal situation for me or something. As adults, somebody's just not getting over their ego, right? You're not adhering to your vows well enough. If you can't make it through that situation to put aside your differences enough to make it healthy for the children, right? We're acting like as if an effect has no cause, right? We're acting like marriages just blow up for some reason and two people start inching out towards another. No, you made a purposeful, like an intent decision to turn away from each other and keep walking in the opposite direction. So I'm telling you now, like I'm making a promise to my wife. I'm not doing that. I know I can get in my feelings about stuff. I'm gonna have to turn around because of the kids and keep walking toward you, even if you're walking away. I'm right on I'm on your ass. Like, where you going? Where you think you're leaving? I'm not doing it. You see what I'm saying? So that is what I mean when I say like you have to stay for the children, but you also have to get over your ego. You have to not submit to your selfish desires. You have to let that thing that you care about so much go. You got to forgive that person cheated. All this stuff that it says in your vows, you got to actually do it. So it's not just yeah, go ahead.
Lady Mother, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you have to do this and you have to do that. And at the end of the day, it's your choice. But you just gotta understand the value in when you make sacrifices like that for the betterment of your children. That is a trait that I think is necessary for children that's actually lacking when they become adults. Being able to show that a representation of you sacrificing amidst the things that you don't want to do. You make a sacrifice, you're showing them how to do that, the importance of that. I think it's very valuable, whenever they become adults and they actually go out in life and they know how to make sacrifices to make things happen. A lot of them mostly pick it up whenever they're like working and stuff. They're willing to make these sacrifices in order to stay at a job or anything like that, or in the military to make sure the mission is complete. They'll deal with the asshole sergeants, all day. I think if we do that for our children, it'll be meaningful for them in the future. That's why I'm about duty and sacrifice.
Yeah, and Lady Mocha, I'm sorry. This is a stat that should shock you. So this is one of the reasons. Like I see what they're saying in the chat. Say you can't make someone stay with you and all. But even looking at the stats, right? They asked women who have been married at least 2 or more times, do you regret leaving your first husband? I think it was 65% of them said yes. You see what I'm saying? Those are the type of stats that I look at to say you rushed into that
Divorce.
Okay, that's actually a great stat, and I don't like stats. So
I was going to say,
got
so
that one.
that is the basis of what I'm saying. You turn away way too quickly. You decide to call it quits way too quickly. And the children can sometimes, they are the anchor, right? To say, I'm going to stick it out. But you should always be intent about trying to stay in your relationship.
So I
So
want
I'm
to
gonna
ask one
say,
thing.
oh,
So let
go
me
ahead.
just jump in before we kind of pivot a little bit, because I think the question you asked was really specific, and that's really important about two miserable people, right? And oftentimes, and I don't know if you've noticed this or anyone else can speak on this as well, people who are miserable are doing one of two things. Typically, they are either being overly independent and avoidant of their relationship, or they're being overly codependent, right? And so typically, if you're miserable outside of abuse, right, we're talking generalities, outside of the extremities, there's somebody who's not fulfilling their own needs and making it somebody else's responsibility. And so if it is two miserable people, they need to sit down and have a conversation about what will fulfill them, and not so much what's the exit plan of this relationship.
So, all right. So my question was kind of playing devil's advocate because I grew up with my mom and my stepdad. My biological father was murdered when I was younger. So my stepdad is the only father I knew. Was the household always perfect? No. But seeing my mom and dad work through it definitely kind of subconsciously taught me, despite the shit that I saw, because it was a lot of stuff, right? Part of my French, but that, when people love each other, they go through things, they stick together, they work through it. Now, I do feel like it's important to have that. You know what I mean? It builds character. It's very important, especially once you decide to get married, to commit to that for a lifetime and not lean on this worldly idea of divorce, right? But I'm gonna go ahead and say that people that decide to stay for the kids are not staying for the kids, they're staying for the optics. You spoke on ego, and people once married, unless they've, I feel like if you go and Mr. Express, I feel like you could probably speak to this, and I mean this completely respectfully, but when you are married, getting a divorce is a failure. It's you didn't meet your goal. Like you didn't stay with the person that you chose forever. So if you go file for divorce and end up having a divorce, I mean, that's looking bad on the two people, the spouses. So people say all the time, oh, we're staying together for the kids. No, y'all are staying together because y'all don't want to look like failures. And the kids feel that. So, there's two sides of that.
Well,
That's all I'm saying.
can I let me
Yeah. Oh, Richard, go ahead.
let
Richard,
me
go ahead.
add
I
a
was
couple
going to
things.
just answer it real quick.
Well, you have a real. I can go after you if you want me to. Go ahead. I'll wait for you.
Okay,
To go ahead.
I'm going to say this real quick. So you're absolutely right. I felt like I was a failure. It was a failure. And I had a lot of lies and a lot of feelings that I was responsible for. And that meant a lot to me. So this is the analogy that someone told me about years ago, and I apply it to this. It's like chewing glass and swallowing it. When you bite into the glass, there's pain. When you swallow it, it's cutting you and there's pain. When you digest it, it's pain. When you pass it, it's pain. And when you leave a relationship after being there for 21 years, that's exactly what it's like. And guess what? Over all the years, you're still healing from that. And there's still things that I'm healing from after all of that. It's not something that, like, I'm bragging about, like, forget her, this and that, because she's the mother of my children. I still respect her and I still have love for her. Am I in love with her? No, but I still have love for her. But there's still a pain that we both went through when we made that decision. And yes, it was a failure. It was a huge failure. And that's something that I actually have discussions with my 3 boys who are men now. Before they walk into a relationship, I tell them the truth about what we did, how we did it, mistakes I made. I really don't talk about their mom. That's one thing I never do. I'm never going to talk about their mom in front of the boys. That's a no-no. And if there's any men that's out there doing it, I'm coming to smack you upside your head. You never, ever discount a woman in front of their boys. That's garbage. But I never did that. But I always talked about where I messed up. So you're absolutely right. Your commentary is on point.
So, Lady T, you did what you actually did there was describe marriage. That's what you did. You described marriage. Now, I think the optics thing that you were talking about, that is so important to define here. That's actually a large part of what a man's happiness is. I want my gold star from society. So you're absolutely right. You stay. Look, marriage is finding different reasons to stay until you can achieve the next phase. I don't see anything wrong with what you said. I'm staying for the optics. I'm staying for the kids because that's actually a large part of my joy. You see what I'm saying? But that's the way men look at it. The reason women may check out is because they believe marriage is actually about happiness. Right? So the second they don't feel any happiness for a little bit, maybe they're ready to exit the relationship. But the optics is, do you not realize, like, this is why 80% of Fortune 500 CEOs are married. They can have any woman they want, but it's for the optics. They will be excommunicated out of certain circles.
That's absolute facts. Absolute
so you see what I'm saying? Like, that is a part of my happiness. I don't want to look like a failure. I tell everybody all the time, if whether it's my fault or not, if I end up getting divorced, I'm going into hiding. I failed. I don't want to see my family. I don't want to see anyone. This is a big thing. Everyone in my family's married and found a way to make it work for the optics and for they don't want to be excommunicated out of the circle of trust, out of the family. So I think that's a big thing you touched on.
So let me add to that too. Ben, I mean, let me just say this. One of the biggest, most damaging things that we all heard last year was Tia Mowry on her happiness victory tour, leaving her marriage, leaving her kids, leaving her vows, leaving her husband, everything because she's not. And she made it clear that she wasn't happy, and she called it graduation. I mean, as far as I was concerned, that was some of the most damaging commentary from a woman that I heard on the airways in a very long time. Because well, okay, but go ahead and say what you're gonna say.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. Go ahead.
Only reason why I'm saying is, and there's a lot of reasons why I'm saying this, because happiness, that's definitely not in the vows. Okay, I mean, your love, cherished, and all that kind of stuff. Happiness is definitely fleeting. So what's she gonna do now that she's not married? If she becomes unhappy for a day, a week, 2 weeks? She had 2 young kids, 11 and 4. She had a man that nobody can say did anything wrong to her, or that we know of, because she didn't lead with that. And then she goes on this graduation tour, and then she holds this guy on a tether on every vacation by having optics, right? Her picture is like, oh, I got this, clown sitting here while I'm leaving him. And let me tell you, I mean, there's a unspoken reason why she left as well. And everybody knows it, but nobody wants to say it, especially a man can't say it. So,
I know.
I think it was just destructive. I just think she was very destructive. But I'll let you go. Lady T.
So
she left.
I think. Hold on. I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna speak. It's 11:11. Make a wish, but I'm not gonna speak on why she decided to leave. I do feel like, since you brought it up, and I forgot what I was gonna say about what Mike said earlier. I think that what she did was kind of fraudulent. I don't feel like similar to what Express said earlier, I feel like she's in pain. Like, and putting on a show, when somebody has to overcompensate and pretend that they're okay, but they're not. That's what that tour was. Like, you just got a divorce, you don't know yourself, you're going through an identity crisis, and you're trying to make it seem as though this divorce is somehow freeing you from something that you chose to be involved in, and you chose to get married, and now all of a sudden you're breaking free, and we're supposed to be convinced that you're happy, that you and your child's father, that you whatever. I just
Yeah, what
wasn't
kind of
convinced.
pain do you think she was in? I mean,
No,
No.
the dynamic. So you have to look at the timeline. Marriage is really all about timeline. The dynamic. This man has been a struggling actor for almost 20 years. He lands his first role. I knew there was trouble in paradise last year, where she made a comment about him being paid more than her for his first sitcom role. Her first sitcom role was over 20 years ago. That was the weirdest thing to ever say about someone who's bringing money into your home.
What?
He's on that All American show. He's one of the leads on that show. And for that show, he got paid the largest sum he's ever been paid. And she made a point to say he was paid more than me. Like, it's some kind of women's empowerment statement. So that told me that because she was the more famous person, the one who probably made more money the entire relationship, you're going to start seeing this happening in modern society. Women do not like the power dynamic shift in the relationship. So now he's the one who makes more money. She ain't got nothing going on. You see what I'm saying?
No, I hear that. I just want to circle back a little bit to the original question. I don't think optics are always bad, right? I think that's where the idea of covering your spouse comes from, is preserving the optics, right? When Trigger Mike at the beginning was talking about certain things that a wife should not talk about in public, that's a certain level of covering. You're preserving the optics of how he shows up in society, right? Same thing with a man staying in a marriage. There's a certain optic that he's perpetuating for her by covering, right? I think that, yes, there's the negative side of optics, right? Where it's just a front and you're not actually seeing things through. But there's also a positive aspect to optics where it is beneficial for the relationship, where you know that you have room to be a human being, and that this person is still going to shield what society is going to say away from any human experience, right? Any error, any misstep, any whatever, right?
Yeah, and just for that person in the chat that said that Corey Hardrick's still coming for her money. Well, since she graduated, she needs to pay her back tuition. Okay, so there's that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Inaz, that the optics is a part of covering, but I don't feel like I don't know. So you said something about, I don't remember, I don't want to paraphrase you incorrectly, but something along the lines of optics is covering, or covering is
Optics is part of covering.
Okay, optics are part of covering. Okay. A part of, okay, I can agree with that. I don't think you said it that way the first time. I could be wrong though. But yeah, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, because I when I want to be covered by my man, yes, of course I want to be covered in a way where, like, you're making sure that you're not embarrassing me, and vice versa. So I do agree with that. But when I think about being covered, like, that's second. I mean, I wouldn't think about that, because I would feel like that's like, he wouldn't be my man if I couldn't trust him with that. But I feel like the covering is like all the other stuff more so than the optics. And I feel like when all the other things are intact, then the optics are also intact, and you don't have to do all the extra stuff to kind of keep that intact. But yeah.
So the reason I say it like that is because, like, in an ideal world, you know, they go hand in hand, right? But the reality is life happens. People make mistakes. People lose jobs. Children don't turn out the way that you intended for them to, right? Like life just happens. And part of that covering is making sure that society doesn't look upon you negatively for just simply making a mistake, or even if to some degree of tolerance, even if it was intentional out of ignorance or not knowing or whatever, that you know that your partner is in your corner and shielding the outside world, right? That also part of protection, right? Like protecting the image, right? It's still, it all kind of goes hand in hand. Like there's so many pieces to that puzzle.
Oh wait, well what's funny is, hold on, like the Trigger Mike brought something up we spoke to earlier, hitting a man where he's weak. Her saying that comment, that whole I hate the whole competitive spirit within relationships. Like compete with me as it relates to seeing which one of us can love each other the most or in the most creative way, something like that. But like to be competing with one another about like opportunities that y'all are landing, I think that's probably why as a creative I probably will never ever date another creative person or whatever, because that industry just makes it really hard, like to coexist as an artist working with another artist, as an actor working with another actor, just creates a weird dynamic.
That's
But
why
I feel like,
Hollywood relationships don't work.
right, unless someone's okay with taking the back, like being behind the curtain and rooting that person on. But like that was a perfect example of her hitting where he was weak. Cause it's like, why would you say that? You know what I mean? Like, why would you even compare paychecks? Like the money, that's great. Like you should be happy for him. Like, yes, this is us. You know what I mean? But yeah.
All right, y'all. We are nearing that time right now. I said it wasn't gonna be such a long show, but definitely some great perspectives. I'm gonna go ahead and get through these super chats real quick. There we go. John the Baptist says, "Love is emotion. A marriage is built on commitment. Over time, emotions change, but the commitment is a lifetime. For better or worse, rich or poor, sickness and health, a woman doesn't equal commitment." John the Baptist 10 says, "A woman's love is overrated. Wives, submit yourselves
We
until
saw
your
this
own
already.
husband." As all we did that. Okay. My bad. I forgot to get rid of that one. This one too?
Saw this one that the husband read. Yeah, we saw this.
Congo
Foxhole
English
material, yeah.
Eric's Foxhole material. Thank you. Clement Gray, $5 says, what are we showing our children to wait until they're grown and then divorce? Why even get married if that's the end result? Get over
I
yourself.
agree with that.
John the Baptist says, when you truly understand love, you don't chase emotional highs. Women enjoy romance and love, but will, on an average, not create it. Men create what women love and enjoy. Clement Gray became a member to you. So actually, I think he said he was already a member, but Google did something funny.
Welcome again.
$5 says, we as people don't honor marriage anymore. We don't honor the manufacturer of marriage, which is God. How would one feel if God decided to walk away?
A word.
Honeek 499 says, I also have a mental and physical abuse. We have to get over ourselves and fight for our families.
I agree.
John the Baptist Fowler says, I don't stay for optics. I stay because I made a promise to God and my wife. Other people's opinion never matter in my commitment.
Bless your union.
Baptist $20 says, Tia Mowry is an example of a woman's love, wives. Submit yourselves until your own husbands as unto the Lord. For the husband, he is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church. I think there might have been all the super chats. One more, John the Baptist says, I'd rather have submission. So to you, John.
Submit, woman.
All right, Nas, we hopping off right now. Just want to say thank you for the panel, for giving your time. Great conversation today. I think Bruiser learned a lot. This is the most quiet as I ever seen Bruiser. So
I said I was gonna come on a solution and try to get some solutions. I wasn't gonna attack nobody.
Okay.
You know?
So,
but I mean, if you want me to go back, hey.
Well, shout out to bro.
His
Bruce.
energy different at the end.
Yeah. Shout out to Bruce.
I would applaud his growth, but he's probably going to regress on Thursdays.
Yeah.
I mean, Thursday's a different vibe. You gotta
Thursday. I'm
bring
coming
the
for
guns
anybody
out.
next. You already know, lady. You already know. You've been there and done that.
Yeah, but you gotta admit though, I mean, it is more conversations that's happening on Thursdays, believe it or not. I mean, I know, yeah, if you've been caught the last like 4 or 5, it's actually been a lot of conversations. So it is a shift. You know, I know people getting tired of the gender war, so to speak, but
I think the choice of topics actually come off a trigger, or more like what's it called, controversial perspective. You know what I'm saying? It trigger those topics actually trigger you. Like some of them talking like, damn, man. I feel like sometimes it's talking to me, you know what I mean? And I gotta hear somebody say something about it, and it almost feels like, damn, they said something about me. So now I gotta fucking defend, you know, the guy in the video because that was me one time. You know what I'm saying? So it's very interesting.
I mean,
it's actually fun.
that could
We
be
made it
set
like
up
an
in
hour and a
today's
half
topic.
without a curse word.
Yeah. I mean, YouTube is getting sensitive right now, so salute to you guys for that. Let's go ahead and get you guys off of that. Nurse Fans, I see you coming into the conversation late. If you missed it, catch it on the replay. Maybe you might have been in the chat. Hit that like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thank you, guys. Make sure you guys follow these people on their individual platforms. Make sure you check them out as well. And I just want to say thank you, panel. Thank you. And thank Mistaken, and also thank Shantae when they dipped off early. Eric, it's always a blessing to see you, brother. You know, thanks for your transparency as well. I know it's not always welcome, and some people frown upon it, but salute to you, sir. Keep being you. Richard Payne, thank you, sir.
Thanks for letting me up. Thank you.
I'm glad you was able to cam up, man. Check your email sometimes too, man. I know you're old school, man. I might have to call you on that phone when you go.
I'll send you my number.
What, he got AOL? Is that what it is?
Phone is crazy.
You still using AOL? Is that what it is?
No, man. I got Gmail, man. I got Gmail.
Oh, okay.
I appreciate your wisdom too, Mr. Payne. I mean,
Thank you,
yeah,
thank
I think
you.
it was a great conversation.
You know, Payne had he was one of the first ones to cop that new BlackBerry when it came back out again. He said,
I made some money on BlackBerry, so leave them alone.
All right, y'all. Until next time, we out, man. Appreciate you.
All right.
Peace.
That's the name.